After the car accident, my adopted brother thought I had lost my memory, pointing at his best friend Alexander. He teased me, "This is your boyfriend." In my previous life, I exposed my adopted brother's lie on the spot but still clung to him obsessively. In the end, I died tragically in the psychiatric hospital where he secretly locked me up. 3 years after my death, Alexander, overwhelmed with grief, slit his wrists in front of my grave. When I opened my eyes again, it was the day of the accident. This time, I walked straight to Alexander with open arms. "Honey, give me a hug." My adopted brother accidentally crushed the medicine bowl in his hand, and in front of me, Alexander's eyes turned red as he hoarsely pulled me into his arms. Okay. Chapter 1. The hospital room reeked of disinfectant. My adopted brother Diego and his best friend Alexander stood side by side in front of me. My head was pounding like it would explode. I paused, dazed, feeling like everything in front of me was unreal. Where am I? Who am I? Thinking I had amnesia, Diego quickly pointed to Alexander beside him, a teasing glint in his eyes as he explained, "You're my sister Elise, and this is your boyfriend Alexander." I looked at Alexander in shock. The man's cold, handsome features were tinged with sadness. He deliberately avoided my gaze, yet his eyes still lingered faintly on me. There was a quiet forbearance in them, just like in my past life. Chapter 2. In my previous life, I had been hopelessly in love with my adopted brother Diego for years, clinging to him until he couldn't stand it anymore. After the accident, he thought I had amnesia and, to get rid of me, claimed that Alexander was my boyfriend. In fact, I did have temporary amnesia right after waking up from the crash, but I recovered quickly. When Diego played his little trick, I didn't overthink it. Instead, stubborn as ever, I exposed his lie right away. Just to prove I wasn't suffering memory loss, I tugged carefully at Diego's sleeve, tears brimming in my eyes. "Brother, I didn't lose my memory. I'm not lying." Diego didn't know what to do with me. His face stiff, he pulled me into a hug, just like he always had whenever I cried over the past 5 years. "I'm sorry, Elise. I made a mistake." My heart soared, and I quickly brushed the incident aside. I clung to Diego as always. Since I was 16, I'd known that my feelings for my adopted brother were far from normal. Every time he dated someone, I'd sabotage the relationship. Books said it was possessiveness. I neither confirmed nor denied it. Diego tolerated all my outrageous behavior. Many times, he'd secretly helped me deal with those girlfriends. He indulged my madness and allowed me to cling to him shamelessly. When I got drunk and kissed Diego, he didn't push me away. Instead, stiff as a board, he let me do as I pleased. Back then, I naively believed he liked me too, but I ignored one crucial fact: he never once confessed his feelings for me. I kissed him for a long time, until he suddenly snapped out of it and barked at me in disgust to get off. Diego touched his swollen lips, a mocking smile on his face. "Elise, how can you like your own brother? You're sick." I froze like someone had poured a bucket of cold water over me. Every bone in my body stiffened with pain. I don't. My voice grew smaller and smaller. Then suddenly his voice rose in a cutting question. "You don't like me, huh?" The contempt in his eyes carved into my soul. I had no answer. Deep down, I had loved Diego. I was an orphan. He was the only one in the world who'd ever been kind to me. How could I not love him? Diego seemed to sense my dirty little secret, and his disgust grew even deeper. "A pervert like you belongs locked in a psychiatric hospital for re-education." Chapter 3. As my thoughts settled, I looked at Diego, who had a smirk playing at the corner of his lips. He was also looking at me quietly, the amusement in his eyes completely undisguised. In that instant, goosebumps crawled all over my body, and I couldn't help but shiver. My nails dug deep into my palms, only the pain kept me sane. I stared directly at Diego and replied word by word. "I understand, brother. In this life, I had no intention of getting entangled with him again. Everything between us had already ended the moment I died tragically in my last life. The days in the psychiatric hospital were unbearable. Diego came to visit me once every 2 weeks. I couldn't stand the constant beatings and electroshock sessions. I cried and begged him to let me out. I screamed with all my strength, "Brother, I was wrong. I won't love you anymore." Every time, Diego would just look down on me coldly, like I was beneath him, his voice emotionless. Elise, seems like your condition's acting up again. And with those words, the next round of torture would begin. I tried to contact every person I knew, hoping someone would rescue me, but Diego had already covered all his tracks. He kept my whereabouts completely hidden, no messages ever made it out. In just 6 months, I was tortured to death. After I died, Diego lost his mind. He held my corpse and refused to let go. He said he regretted it. He said he loved me. He cried over and over, repeating how his pride and fear had twisted everything, that loving his adopted sister would only make others look at him with contempt. At the time, my soul was standing nearby, coldly watching everything unfold. All I felt was disgust. Even now, whenever I see Diego, my body reacts with instinctive nausea. So, I turned my gaze toward Alexander. I opened my arms to him, holding back my tears, and said in a soft, teasing voice, "Honey, give me a hug." Chapter 4. Crash. The sound of porcelain shattering was piercing in the sterile hospital room. I glanced sideways. Diego's palm was covered in blood, the brown medicinal liquid mixed with blood dripping onto the floor. Utterly revolting. He stood still, the mischief in his eyes completely gone. What replaced it was overwhelming rage. But I had no interest in dealing with him now. All my attention was on Alexander. From the moment I called him honey, his eyes had turned red. His body stiffened as he lifted his gaze to me. Stunned. Emotions surged in his eyes, half confusion, half exhilaration, finally settling into a trembling intensity. His lips parted, and in a husky voice, he stepped forward quickly and pulled me tightly into his arms. By my ear, he murmured low and deep, "Okay." Diego clenched his injured hand, blood flowing freely. He coughed a few times and raised his bleeding left hand in front of me. The smell of blood made me frown. Alexander, calm and composed, moved me to the side, pulling his trench coat around me protectively. I peeked out from his embrace, only to have a warm hand gently cover my eyes. "Don't look. It's disgusting." As he spoke, Alexander stepped in front of me and glared angrily at Diego. His hatred was blatant. "You know she's terrified of pain and blood, and you still did that on purpose to disgust her?" A strange feeling welled up in my heart. Chapter 5. I brushed Alexander's hand away and looked up carefully at his pale face. His features were delicate, just like I remembered. Looking closely, he seemed even sharper than before. In my memories, Alexander had always been the quiet type. This was the first time I'd ever seen him openly scold someone like that. Apparently, Diego found it unbelievable too. "What the hell does it have to do with you?" Diego rolled his eyes and shakily reached out his hand, as if waiting for my reaction. "Elise, I'm hurt. In the past, I definitely would have panicked, fumbling for ointment while sobbing as I cleaned his wound. But now," I leaned further into Alexander's arms, glancing coldly at Diego's filthy hand. "Brother, there are doctors and nurses outside. I'm not a medic." "You?" I cut him off impatiently. "I'm tired. I want to go home." Out of the corner of my eye, I caught someone's upturned lips, like a smug little puppy wagging its tail. Physically, I wasn't badly hurt. The doctor said I just needed rest at home. Alexander refused to let me walk on my own. He insisted on carrying me out. At that moment, Diego's face twisted with rage. He finally exploded. He grabbed my arm tightly. "Elise, didn't you say you wanted to go home?" I pried his fingers off one by one. Red marks appeared on my skin. "Yeah, I'm going to my boyfriend's house." "Is that a problem, brother?" "Elise, don't you regret this?" Diego let out a self-mocking laugh, practically growling through gritted teeth. "Regret?" I only regretted not realizing my own heart sooner. I only regretted being a fool in my past life, getting played by Diego over and over. Alexander carried me into the car, carefully fastening the seatbelt. He floored the gas pedal and sped off. The whole way home, his palm never let go of my clenched hand. Once we got home, I felt uncomfortable all over and wanted to take a shower. Alexander thoughtfully prepared the bath. He opened a cabinet and took out a new bottle of essential oil. Jasmine, my favorite scent. Then, he opened the walk-in closet and pulled out a brand new set of loungewear. Tags still attached. It fit me perfectly. I was a little puzzled. Alexander scratched the back of his head, blushing all the way to his ears. I saw it while shopping, thought it'd suit you, bought it on a whim. On a whim, and you bought that much? I pointed to the racks behind him, where women's clothes took up most of the closet. All new, and all from the brands I liked. Don't get the wrong idea. I blinked at him expectantly, waiting for him to finish. Alexander sighed, his expression dropping all pretenses. What's wrong with buying clothes for my girlfriend? Was this really the same Alexander from my memories? The shy, sensitive guy who used to blush just talking to me? In my previous life, we barely had any interaction before I died in that psychiatric hospital. It wasn't until after my death that I finally caught a glimpse of how deeply Alexander had loved me. Chapter 6. In my previous life, my soul was trapped in the apartment I had lived in before. After realizing my unusual feelings for Diego Sue, I moved out of the Sue household. When the news of my death came, Alexander went to confront Diego alone. But what explanation could there be? Diego simply claimed I had died from an incurable illness. Alexander wasn't even allowed the right to seek the truth. That night, Alexander easily cracked the password to my apartment door. I was stunned as I watched him barge in, stumbling into my bedroom. By the time my soul floated after him, all I saw was his tall figure curled into a ball, lying on my bed. His back trembled with every breath, the pillow beneath him soaked with tears. I wanted to comfort him, but didn't know where to begin, so I simply sat by the bed and silently watched him. Eventually, I couldn't resist reaching out to touch the fluffy top of his hair. But sadly, I was only a ghost. I couldn't truly touch Alexander. My hand passed right through his soft hair, like soothing a child. I gently stroked the back of his head. Alexander, don't cry. If you keep crying, I won't be able to stop myself from kissing you. The delicate face beneath my palm trembled for a moment. Alexander's eyes suddenly flew open, and big tears rolled down. Then he closed them again, utterly hopeless. Liar. Silence settled over the room. Only his soft sobs echoed endlessly through the air. Chapter 7. From that day on, Alexander moved into the apartment, living with my soul. Others laughed at him, said he was crazy. I also thought he was a fool, because Alexander always talked to himself, sometimes sharing happy things with the empty air, sometimes venting his darkest feelings. I sat quietly beside him, watching his normally cold face soaked in tears. Day by day, he grew thinner and thinner. I knew he was sick. The dining table was always full of giant boxes of medicine. I begged him to live well, but it was no use. He couldn't hear me. We spent 3 full years together, day and night, yet we were like two lonely souls, separated by an unbreakable wall. I couldn't touch him, couldn't hold him, couldn't speak to him, and the longer I stayed in the human world, the more transparent my soul became. I knew it wouldn't be long before I disappeared from this world completely. Alexander still left early and came home late every day. I couldn't leave the apartment, so I had no idea what he was doing, until the 3rd anniversary of my death. Alexander deliberately turned on the TV and switched to the news channel. Just before he left, he looked deeply in my direction. A strange chill crept through me. I knew something was wrong. Soon, a breaking news bulletin aired on TV. Diego Sue, the head of the Sue family, had died in a car crash. The incident was suspected to stem from a personal vendetta. The suspect had fled the scene. Police were currently pursuing him. It was Alexander. He was such a fool. Panic surged within me, and my soul burst with energy, breaking through the spiritual barrier of the apartment. Drawn by some unknown force, I floated to my own grave. Alexander was hugging my tombstone, crying like a fool. Elise, I finally got revenge for you. At his feet were several empty pill bottles and discarded beer cans. I circled around in a frenzy. The cemetery was vast and empty. No one noticed anything wrong with Alexander. Alexander, I'm ordering you, don't you dare die. Do you hear me? My nearly hysterical scream jolted him briefly awake. He looked straight at me, eyes deep, a soft smile blooming on his lips. You came to get me, didn't you? With that, he picked up the knife, and without hesitation, slashed his already scarred wrist. Elise, if there's a next life, I'll make sure to bravely hold your hand. Chapter 8. Thankfully, the heavens gave me a second chance. Looking at the handsome face so close to mine, my cheeks flushed, and tears welled in my eyes. The image of Alexander moments before his death was etched deep into my heart. The pain made my chest tighten, my face twist in agony. A warm hand gently cupped my cheek, wiping away my tears one drop at a time. Is it the wound? Does it hurt again? The car accident wasn't serious, I only had a few scrapes. Compared to the wounds of my past life, they were nothing. I didn't hurt anymore, but I didn't want Alexander to know about my rebirth. So I nodded, greedily soaking in the warmth radiating from him. It hurts so bad, only kisses can make it better. Such a baby. Alexander licked his lips, his dark eyes sparkling. Just kisses, will that be enough? Before I could react, his hand cradled the back of my head. A fierce, overwhelming kiss crashed down on me, as if he wanted to completely devour me. I was kissed until I couldn't breathe. Then, of course, the phone rang at the worst possible time. It was Diego. I didn't want to answer, but he just kept calling, relentless. I impatiently tried to hang up, but accidentally pressed the answer button. Elise, I've been thinking, you should move back home. It's better to have the housekeeper take care of you. A soft moan slipped from my lips. Diego lost it. Elise, what are you doing? Answer me. Don't get distracted. I couldn't reply. My hand was pinned and someone ended the call for me. Half an hour later, I was still tangled up with Alexander. Then came the pounding on the door, mixed with furious shouting. Alexander, who gave you permission to touch her? Chapter 9. Diego was so loud. I didn't want to deal with him, but he clearly had no plans to leave. Reluctantly, I climbed off Alexander. He ruffled my messy hair, his eyes crinkling in a smile. Be good. I'll go kick him out. Alexander, lips swollen red, went to open the door. The moment he cracked it open, Diego stormed in like a madman. His eyes darkened as they scanned me up and down, finally landing on my neck, covered in kiss marks. You touched her? Alexander, you dare touch her? Diego roared and threw a hateful punch behind him. She lost her memory. You took advantage of her. I gasped, but Alexander tilted his head just in time, dodging the blow with ease. Wait, was this really the Alexander the first knew? When was he this agile? He struck back with fierce precision. Every punch landed hard. Within moments, he had Diego pinned and thrown out the door. Get lost. Don't come near her again. Bang! The door slammed shut. Only a cold, intimidating back remained. Then he turned around, and his face returned to its usual softness. Did I scare you? I was stunned, completely floored. Something was wrong. Alexander wasn't acting like himself. Are you hiding something from me? Alexander scratched his head and shyly nodded. You said you liked it, so I practiced in secret. What? He pointed to his waist and abs. Abs? I liked abs. Wait, I had said something like that in my past life, when I used to stare at his perfect abs lined up like a model's, but could only look, never touch. I had definitely made some thirsty comments, but how did he know? I narrowed my eyes and stared at him, only to be met with his sparkling eyes, full of laughter. I knew that Pancake Lover was your alt account. Sharp-eyed. This one, it was true, I had posted some bold opinions under that account. But don't I deserve some dignity? Now that he knew, how was I supposed to carry out any more sneaky little schemes? Forget it. I gave in. Excitedly, I rubbed my hands together, staring at his hard, sculpted abs with greedy eyes. Can I touch? His handsome face turned bright red. After a long pause, a barely audible whisper came from above. Chapter 10. The next morning, I pushed myself up off Alexander's abs. His skin was covered in red marks from me. He was such a calm sleeper, barely moved the whole night. Back when I was still a ghost, I had spent 3 entire years sharing a bed with him. But now that I was human again, this was the first time we had truly lain together. Once the haze of passion wore off, a wave of shyness swept over me. Blushing, I tried to sneak away, only for him to grab my ankle and pull me back onto him. His thin lips brushed against mine, grinding with playful amusement. Shy now? You didn't look like this last night when you were making me call you master. I shoved him weakly. I'm hungry. Alexander narrowed his eyes slightly, but his fingers never stopped moving. I quickly clarified. My stomach's hungry. Right on cue. My belly let out a loud growl. Somewhat disappointed, Alexander finally retracted his hand, leaning back to stare at me with a leisurely look. But here, he pointed downward. It says it's hungry too. By the time we were dressed and out of the bedroom, the housekeeper had already made lunch and left. The table was full of my favorite dishes. After we ate, Alexander asked, "Got any plans for today? I've lost my memory. Remember? I can't think of anything." I teased him on purpose. "Why don't you tell me, how did we fall in love back then?" His cheeks flushed red, but his head bobbed proudly. "You always wanted to be with me, never apart. What kind of places did we like going to?" For a moment, Alexander's expression darkened slightly. A flicker of sadness crossed his face. He paused, deep in thought, as if recalling something from long ago. "We liked staying home." Staying home? I thought of this morning, my back still ached. "There's no way I'm staying home again today." "Alexander, let's go check out the home goods mall." This place feels cold and lifeless. I don't like it. Alexander wasn't one for crowds. His house barely had any furnishings, everything was muted, minimal, colorless. There wasn't a trace of warmth anywhere. I wanted to bring my own colors into this home, not just with the clothes in the walk-in closet, but everywhere, because Alexander was always so anxious, so afraid of loss. If I so much as disappeared for a few seconds, he would immediately come searching for me, panicked, only relaxing once he saw I was okay, pulling me tightly into his arms. "Elise, I thought I'd lost you again." His eyes brimmed with tears, his breathing ragged. "Without you around, I always feel like something's missing, so I wanted to fill that missing piece by marking this territory as mine." Chapter 11. In just one day, the house had changed completely. I placed my favorite plush toys on the bed and the sofa. Alexander called them childish, yet I caught him secretly squishing one until it was all misshapen. The dull gray bedding was replaced with soft, sweet pinks. The slippers were now cute little bunny designs. I even picked out new pajamas for Alexander, matching couple sets with mine. Fresh-cut flowers now brightened the living room. A bouquet of vibrant, blooming garden roses, orange red, like the warm winter sun, on the marble sink in the bathroom. We placed 2 porcelain dolls, cheek to cheek, one boy, one girl. Alexander insisted the girl looked like me, round-faced and adorable. I insisted the boy looked like him, clumsy, and very kissable. Neither of us would give in, so we agreed to a truce. We'd leave the dolls beside the mirror. Every day we'd look at ourselves beside them, until one of us finally admitted the resemblance. After showering, we curled up together on the couch to watch a movie. Alexander brought over a fluffy blanket and wrapped the 2 of us tightly in it. The movie was warm and touching, a story about a young couple who started as secret admirers and eventually found happiness together. In the final scene, the 2 of them lived happily with a little dog. It was sweet, but suddenly, my nose stung, and my eyes welled up. What would happen to Alexander if one day I disappeared again? He was always obsessive. He'd surely spiral just like in the last life. No, I absolutely couldn't let him fall into that darkness again. I sniffled and solemnly cupped Alexander's face in my hands. "Alexander, let's adopt a cat, or maybe a dog." His brows twitched slightly in suspicion. He grabbed my wrists and held them tightly in his hands. "Why? You've always hated pets." Chapter 12. The truth was, I never hated small animals. It was just that the elders of the Sioux family didn't like them, so I wasn't allowed to like them either. That year, I begged Diego Sioux for days. Only then did he reluctantly agree to secretly bring me home a kitten. But before the kitten ever reached my hands, my adoptive mother found out. She threw the kitten away, scolded Diego for being distracted by playthings, said he was unfit to be the heir, and that he had deeply disappointed her. Then she locked me in the dark storage room to reflect. She warned that if I ever corrupted Diego again, she would send me back to the orphanage. I didn't understand. How could a little kitten cause so much trouble? But I didn't dare resist. After all, I really didn't want to go back to the orphanage. To appease her, I knelt on the floor, admitted my mistake, and cried as I swore never to bring any animals home again. Only then did her expression finally soften. I was locked away for an entire week. By the time I was released, the kitten had long become a stray. I never found it again. Heartbroken, I wandered alone in the park. That was when I unexpectedly saw Alexander, crouched down, holding a big bowl of cat food, feeding a group of strays. The cold moonlight bathed him, like he was wrapped in a soft, glowing halo. It was a side of Alexander the first had never seen. His background was similar to mine. No, in fact, his life was even harder. Alexander Liu was an illegitimate child, never accepted. His father had been drunk, and his mother deliberately seduced him. That's how Alexander came to be, in the eyes of the Liu family. He was their greatest disgrace. No one respected him. No one even saw him as a person. That sense of inferiority and gloom clung to Alexander for years. Only the stray cats and dogs in the park would gently rub against his pant leg. I thought, if he had a kitten to keep him company, then if I ever left him again, at least, with his sense of responsibility, he wouldn't abandon the little creature. Of course, I'd never tell him any of this. I kissed his soft lips. A child will make the house feel warmer. The word child made his eyes tremble. He parted his lips. But it took him a long time to speak. Is that okay, Alexander? In this life, I didn't plan to let Diego off the hook. But the Sioux family was powerful. If something ever happened to me, Alexander, you must not do anything reckless again. His dark eyes locked onto me, his gaze heavy and unwavering. The world around us fell completely silent. Only the sound of our breathing remained. Under his intense stare, my heart fluttered with guilt. I wrapped my arms around his neck and coaxed him. Is that okay? Yeah, okay. Chapter 13. I had a nightmare. In it, I saw Alexander collapsed in front of my grave, his white sleeves soaked in blood. I woke up struggling and drenched in cold sweat, only to find the space beside me empty. Where was Alexander? Panic gripped my chest. I didn't even stop to put on shoes. Barefoot, I got out of bed and searched for him. There was a strange sound coming from the rooftop. My heart dropped. I ran upstairs. I flung the terrace door open. Alexander, you're awake. Alexander turned toward me, wearing an apron and gloves, kneeling on thick garden pads. He looked up from a row of blooming flowers. Every one of them was a type I loved, the same kinds I used to grow in my apartment, after I was locked away in the psychiatric hospital. No one tended to them, and they all withered. Alexander had tried everything, but he couldn't save them, and now, he was planting them again? Why aren't you wearing shoes? He frowned, took off his gloves, and got up to fetch me a pair. Then he brought over a small stool and patted the spot beside him. Sit. What made you want to start gardening? With his pale, elegant fingers, he scooped up soil, gently patted it down into a pot, and poured water over it. Beads of water clung to the pink rose petals, making them shimmer. When the whole terrace is in bloom, he said, I can take so many beautiful pictures of you. That image, it would be breathtaking. And Alexander, we will have that day. Chapter 14. Alexander and I adopted a chubby orange kitten and a small yellow and white puppy. Alexander's gentle temperament made him much more suited to caring for the little ones than I was. Naturally, he also took on most of the housework. Not that he complained. These days, he was always busy but always smiling. In the mornings, he watered the flowers, then cleaned up after the two furry chaos bringers. After breakfast, he insisted on taking me and the pets out for a walk. After bathing at night, we'd cuddle on the couch and binge our favorite shows like always. The two fluff balls curled at our feet, purring and snoring contentedly. It was bliss. The person I loved most was right beside me. One little turn and I could kiss those soft lips. Just thinking about it made me giddy. I couldn't stop the corners of my mouth from curling up, no matter how hard I tried to suppress it. I wanted to kiss him. Wait a sec. Why did it look like Alexander was secretly smirking? Did he read my mind? No way. I was so careful with my thoughts. Then, That handsome face suddenly leaned in and kissed me, catching me completely off guard. Alexander? Elise. I love you. Chapter 15. I thought we'd have more time together, but I didn't expect the separation to come so soon. That day, after leaving the supermarket, I suddenly craved bubble tea. I told Alexander to go ahead and bring the car around. He had just walked away. A black Panamera pulled up in front of me. I recognized it immediately. It was Diego's car. I turned and ran. 2 bodyguards in black suits jumped out and grabbed me, shoving me into the car. The driver floored the gas pedal, tires screeching. The divider slowly rose, sealing the back seat into a closed chamber. Diego, are you insane? Let me go back. Elise, I finally found you. There's no way I'm letting you go again. His tall frame pressed down on me. I was forced into the corner, just as I was about to hit the car door. His large hand caught me and dragged me into his chest. His cold fingers slid along my waist, even through my clothes. Diego had truly lost it. What was he planning? To lock me back in the psychiatric hospital? Never again. The trauma of being imprisoned in my last life crept up my spine, pricking my nerves like 1,000 needles. Panic overtook me. I trembled uncontrollably, curled into a ball. I hid my hands behind me and tried to secretly send Alexander a message for help. I had barely unlocked the screen when Diego shoved me hard into the corner, his long arms reaching over to snatch the phone from my hands without hesitation. I lunged to grab it back. Diego, what the hell are you doing? He raised one arm to pin me down, then with the other, rolled down the car window, right in front of my desperate eyes. He tossed the phone out. No. Satisfied, Diego pulled me tighter into his arms, then leaned over to kiss the top of my head. Elise, you're really disobedient. It's my fault. I should have never let you leave my side. From now on, I won't make the same mistake. We'll be together forever, okay? Chapter 16. No. Let me go. I struggled with all my strength and slapped Diego hard across the face. But instead of getting angry, he only held me tighter. Like a madman, he clung to me and muttered nonsense. Elise, stop lying to yourself. You love me. You're with Alex just to spite me, because I used him to mess with you, right? You're punishing me for pretending not to know your feelings. Elise, I was wrong. I'm not your brother anymore. Don't call me that. Let's start over, okay? Diego really had lost his mind. But, Diego, I never loved you. Impossible. You're lying again. While I was locked up in the psychiatric hospital, I had time to reflect. What were my feelings for Diego? Really? When he was with other women, I'd get jealous and upset. I even schemed to drive them away. I was always seeking his gaze, always craving his attention, but none of it was voluntary. It was Diego who guided me this way all along. He indulged my obsession. He gave me just enough affection to keep me hoping when I was unsure. He crossed lines with me, but never admitted anything. He neither accepted nor rejected my feelings. A textbook case of manipulative emotional control, from beginning to end. Diego had always had feelings for me that went beyond being a brother. He just didn't have the courage to face them, so he twisted the blame and placed it all on me. Diego was a coward. How could I ever love someone like him? I shoved him away forcefully and spat the one truth that shattered his self-image. Diego, falling in love with your adopted sister? That's disgusting. After a lifetime, I finally had the chance to throw those exact words back at him. Diego froze for a second, then his eyes darkened completely. His hand clenched, and with one sharp pull, he tore through my clothes. Cold air rushed over my bare shoulder. The devil had awoken. Diego grabbed my throat, his fingers pressing down, inch by inch. Yes, I love you. Every second you've been with that bastard Lou. I've wanted to drag you back. You're never leaving me again. Chapter 17. Just like in my past life, Diego wanted to imprison me again, but this time, I wouldn't sit back and wait for it to happen. Pain exploded on my lips as his kiss turned violent, the metallic taste of blood blooming in my mouth. With trembling fingers, I reached into my pocket and pulled out the hidden spring knife, then plunged it into his chest without hesitation. The next second, he grabbed my wrist and slowly twisted the knife handle, Does that satisfy your hate? I should have known. Diego was a complete and utter madman. The car suddenly slowed, and the screech from the emergency brake nearly shattered my eardrums. The sudden stop hurled my body forward from the inertia. Diego was quick. He pulled me into his arms just in time. The motion must have tugged on his wound. He let out a muffled grunt and growled at the driver. You trying to get us killed? Why, young master? The car ahead is forcing me to stop. A black Maybach. It was Alexander. The car in front was coming at us fast. Aggressive. Like a last stand between life and death. But if you looked closely, you'd see it left just the tiniest, almost imperceptible gap between them. All madmen, but Diego was the craziest of them all. Ram into him. I don't believe he's not afraid of dying, but he underestimated human instinct. Faced with two lunatics, the driver wasn't stupid enough to gamble with his life. The moment before the two cars collided, he slammed the brakes, swerved the wheel, and crashed into the nearby hedges instead. The car in front skidded to a sudden stop. Alexander's eyes were blazing with fury as he scrambled out and ran over, yanking the door open. Once he confirmed I was okay, he exhaled heavily in relief. He picked me up, gently set me down outside the car, and draped his jacket over my shoulders. Stay here, all right? Then, without waiting another second, Alexander reached in and dragged Diego out, pummeling him with clenched fists. He didn't say a word. Every punch was filled with seething rage. Diego, already wounded from my knife, had protected me instinctively when the car hit the hedges. His leg had been crushed and bent at a grotesque angle. Now, with Alexander raining down blows, he couldn't even make a sound. This couldn't go on. If Diego were beaten to death, Alexander would never walk away from the consequences. Chapter 18. Stop! I rushed forward and caught Alexander's hardened fists with both hands, gripping them tightly. Alexander, we still have to go home. The driver wasn't seriously injured. He called the ambulance immediately. Diego, unconscious and broken, was rushed to the hospital. Chapter 19. What came after was a conversation initiated by my adoptive mother. After Diego woke up in the hospital, she had him sent away on the grounds of mental instability requiring treatment. As for where he went, I didn't know, nor did I care. While Diego was unconscious, I backed up everything I had secretly recorded in the car and sent a copy to my adoptive mother. The moment she received it, she contacted me to strike a deal. If that recording ever went public, Diego's crimes would be undeniable. And abusing an adopted sister? Not exactly good press. Diego Sue might not care about the Sue family's reputation, but my adoptive parents would never stand by and watch their life's work get dragged through the mud. Of course, Alexander had a hand in this too. He sent a separate dossier, concrete evidence of Diego's criminal actions, to my adoptive father. How to handle things from there? The old couple knew what to do. 3 months after Diego was secretly taken away, the Sue family got played. Their capital chain broke, and they plunged into a massive financial crisis. They had no choice but to face acquisition. The buyer's surname? Lou. Chapter 20. The two furballs had eaten themselves into food comas, and were now napping peacefully in their little nests. I snuggled against Alexander Lou, poking at the hollow of his waist. Alexander, when did you gather that evidence? He ignored me, still mad. He was angry that I had knowingly gone near Diego, even after sensing his ill intent. That day, I'd seen Diego's car nearby, so I deliberately sent Alexander away. Don't be mad if I'd told you beforehand. You wouldn't have let me do it. Did you even think about me? Huh? Humph. Angry husband, so hard to coax. I plastered on a huge grin, and threw my arms around his neck, whining like a spoiled child. Of course I thought about you. And what exactly were you thinking? I was thinking, what delicious dinner my husband would make for me that night. Alexander lost it. He wrapped his arms around my waist, rested his head on my shoulder. Cool. Wet tears started soaking through my shirt. One by one, his grip on me tightened. I was almost out of breath. Ouch, it hurts. Do you have any idea how scared I was? His voice cracked. His body trembled against mine. What if I never saw you again, Elise? Why do you keep leaving me behind like that? but I never meant to leave him. If Diego hadn't let me go, that audio recording would have hit every major news outlet, and the entire Sue family would have gone down with him. I rubbed his soft, fluffy hair, trying to soothe him. Shoo, I came back, didn't I? And I brought a weapon, too. Alexander's cries grew even hoarser in my arms. What if he hides you away again? What if I can't find you? What then? Chapter 21. Silly boy. Alexander, if you keep crying, I'm going to kiss you. Alexander lifted his head from my shoulder. His eyes were red, like a soft, vulnerable little bunny, the kind that made you want to tease him on purpose. Liar. I'm not a liar. I licked my lips and leaned in closer. Sweet and soft. Chapter 22. Extra. Alexander. I had always liked Elise. Everyone used to laugh at me, the illegitimate child. I had no family, no friends. The Lou family servants did everything they could to torment me in secret. Only Elise ever noticed me. When she was 5, she clutched a little bag of cookies and stuffed it into my arms. Before that, I had never even tasted a cookie. When I was starving, I'd sneak into the kitchen and eat cold leftovers off the plates. That bag of cookies, they were shaped like little animals. They smelled amazing, even though my stomach growled painfully. I couldn't bear to eat them. Elise put her hands on her hips and ordered me. Alexander, if you don't eat those cookies right now, I'll kiss you. Liar. She was definitely lying. I didn't eat the cookies. And Elise didn't kiss me. Later, she changed her tune. If you do eat the cookies, I'll kiss you. Still lying. Elise and I were different. She was adopted. Yes, but she had adoptive parents who loved her, and a doting adopted brother who spoiled her. In the Sue family, she could do whatever she pleased, because no matter what happened, Diego would always clean up her mess. On her 18th birthday, Elise looked at Diego with those glittering eyes, burning with affection. She told me she liked Diego, that Diego liked her too. A dull ache bloomed in my chest, but I thought, as long as Elise was happy, that was enough. Then, one day, she disappeared. I couldn't find her anywhere. My whole world went dark. I confronted Diego. He dodged the question, gave me nothing. Soon after, I heard the news of Elise's death, and just like that, I had lost her forever. If only I had been a little braver back then. I hid in Elise's old apartment. Every inch of it still smelled like her, still held her presence. Sometimes, I'd hallucinate, feel like she was right there beside me again. I made myself a promise, over and over, if I ever had another chance, I would protect Elise with everything I had. By some miracle, I really was reborn, back to when I was 18. This time, I used everything at my disposal to climb the ranks in the Lou family. One day, I would make the Sue family pay. Taking them down wasn't even difficult. After all, I'd spent 3 full years doing it in my past life. After I died, none of the Sue family met a good end. This time, it'll be the same. Chapter 23. But Elise still saw me as the timid, insecure version of me from our last life. She still got that glow of pride from protecting me. So I played along. As long as she was happy, I didn't mind. There were a few times I nearly broke character, but thankfully, she never noticed. That day in the hospital, when Elise reached out her arms to me, I couldn't hold back anymore. I pulled her into my embrace. She said, "Honey, hug me," and silently, in my heart, I whispered back, "I missed you so much." Story 2. My husband and I were both reborn the day before our wedding. We silently chose to go our separate ways, neither of us mentioning the wedding. He went abroad with the internet celebrity he liked to start a business, while I stayed in the gallery and continued painting. 5 years later, he had become a well-known entrepreneur who sponsored his alma mater, while I was still working at the same gallery. When we met again, he had his arm around the waist of a beautiful internet celebrity, looking down at me, covered in mud, with mockery in his voice. "After all these years, how is it that you still look so old and worn out?" But later, when the city's most powerful tycoon held me in his arms. He panicked. "Eva, how could you betray me and find another man behind my back?" Chapter 1. On the day of the alumni celebration banquet hosted by our alma mater, Ryan returned triumphantly from abroad, basking in his success. As a distinguished entrepreneur and a major donor to the school, he was surrounded by classmates raising their glasses to toast him. When I entered the venue, the crowd was busy fawning over him. "Ryan, you're a legend at our school now." "Exactly. I heard you even established the Ryan Scholarship. We'll be counting on you in the future. By the way, is your girlfriend still Eva?" At the mention of this, the group turned to Ryan with curiosity and gossip written all over their faces. Ryan lazily pulled the woman behind him closer and introduced her with a nonchalant expression. "This is my girlfriend, Celine. You all probably know her. Wow, she's a famous influencer. Such a perfect match." The room buzzed with compliments for Celine. At that moment, one of the girls who had once shipped Ryan and me murmured wistfully, "Aw, so his girlfriend isn't Eva anymore. I used to love them together. If only they hadn't broken up." Such an atmosphere-ruining comment naturally went unanswered. Ryan's brows furrowed slightly, and his smile stiffened. We just weren't suitable for each other. Sensing his reluctance to talk about it, everyone tactfully changed the subject back to how well Ryan and Celine suited each other. After brushing the dirt off my clothes, I straightened up and walked in confidently. The class monitor was the first to notice me. "Oh, look who's here, our school beauty. Eva, come, sit next to me." "What happened? You look so messy. Did you fall?" I responded with polite pleasantries, turning to meet Ryan's gaze. He rolled his eyes at me, his entire demeanor radiating disdain as he scanned me from head to toe. In his tailored trench coat and perfectly chiseled features, he looked like a noble prince. Standing beside him in her designer dress, Celine gently held his arm. The two of them together seemed undeniably compatible. And then there was me. The mud stains on my clothes were still visible, leaving me looking disheveled. But I didn't care. I nodded at him as a form of greeting and then turned away to chat with other classmates. "So, why the sudden alumni gathering?" "I heard it's because Luis sponsored a project for the school and our professor. Half the people here came just to meet him." "Luis? The rich and handsome guy from school back then?" "Yep, hoping I might have a lucky encounter with him." Hee hee. They continued their conversation while I looked down, fiddling with my phone. The professor wouldn't arrive for a while, covered in mud as I was. I felt incredibly uncomfortable. So, I called someone to deliver a change of clothes and headed to the restroom to get changed. When I came out, Ryan was pacing near the door, not wanting to get entangled with him. I turned to leave, but I didn't expect him to call out to me. "You've been struggling in that rundown gallery for so many years, and you couldn't even spare some money for a cab to get here? Did you take a spill outside and end up eating dirt? You're a complete mess." I turned to face that all too familiar face and replied firmly, "That's my business and has nothing to do with you." Ryan clenched his jaw tightly. "Then stay in the mud for the rest of your life." With that, he turned to leave, but halfway through, he stopped and looked back at me, his expression tinged with a smug satisfaction. "Eva, you're still as stubborn as ever. But no matter how much you pretend, I know you regret it. Too bad it's too late." Chapter 2. I stood still, watching his figure gradually disappear into the distance. Did I regret it? I thought of everything that had happened in my previous life. In that life, Ryan and I had gotten married right after graduating from college. In the beginning, things went relatively well because we were in love. But eventually, we lost to time and constant arguments. Before my rebirth, we had a massive fight. The argument was about his insistence that I quit my job and go abroad with him to start fresh. I didn't want to give up everything I had here. Ryan was throwing things, shouting at the top of his lungs, completely out of control. I tried to suppress my emotions and reason with him. If we both go abroad, what about Olivia? Olivia was our daughter. Ryan was an only child, and his parents were elderly. My parents passed away early. His parents didn't want us to leave home and move abroad. Olivia was still young and needed constant care. That's why I stayed at the gallery where I worked. The gallery wasn't large, but it was close to home and displayed many of my paintings. In a few more years, I might have become a partner at the gallery. The path was monotonous, but to be with Ryan and to provide a better life for our family, what did a little monotony matter? I cherished my family and everything we had, but happy days never seemed to last. After Ryan visited a friend's company abroad, he became obsessed with the idea of moving overseas to pursue bigger opportunities. He believed that if he had chosen to study and work abroad from the start, he would have achieved far greater success. In reality, our life wasn't bad at all. We had a house, a car, and no loans to worry about. Together, our savings totaled a seven-figure sum, but Ryan was still dissatisfied with our life. He glared at me, his eyes full of anger, standing frozen in place. What kind of man wants to be tied down at home by someone like you? And besides, those are my parents, not yours. I never said I needed to take care of them. So why are you acting like some saint? As for our daughter, we can just take Olivia with us. If you really want to act like the perfect person, we can bring my parents to live with us abroad too. His words pierced my heart like nails. All the years I had spent caring for his parents, everything I had done for them, were dismissed as me acting like a saint. And he made it sound so simple, bringing the child and his parents along to start over abroad. But reality isn't that easy. Adjusting to a new language, society, environment, schooling, and work would leave us struggling to cope ourselves. Where would we find the energy to care for others? I tried to reason with him patiently, but he interrupted me before I could finish. Eva, let me ask you one last time. Are you choosing me or that rundown gallery? If you choose that worthless gallery, we'll go file for divorce right now. I stood there in shock. I never thought he'd actually threaten me with divorce just to go abroad. Ryan, why are you so determined to leave and start over? I couldn't understand. He sneered mockingly. Are all older women like you? Even if you don't care about yourself, even if you're content to lie flat here, shouldn't you think about Olivia? Do you want Olivia to end up like you? An old, washed-up housewife her whole life? Anger flared inside me, burning hotter than ever. Wanting to balance work and family is lying flat? Ryan, opportunities aren't exclusive to living abroad. If you work hard, there are paths to success everywhere. The life we have now is the best security we can give Olivia and your parents. Enough. Ryan cut me off impatiently. If you're not going, I'll go. I should never have married you in the first place. A useless woman like you only drags me down. He shouted insults while throwing his belongings into a suitcase. It wasn't the first time I'd heard him say things like that. But before, I had always assumed it was just his arrogance and his bad way of expressing himself. Looking back now, could the words he always had on the tip of his tongue have been lies? I fear that, in his heart, I was always nothing more than a useless burden. When he picked up his suitcase and was about to leave, I followed him into the car, worried about his unstable emotions. But an accident still happened. Ryan continued to lash out at me angrily while we were in the car, and eventually, our vehicle was struck by an out-of-control truck and overturned. We were trapped under the car, the ground stained red with blood. When I woke up again, we had both been reborn to the day before our wedding. Without saying a word, we both silently agreed not to proceed with the marriage. He ignored his parents' objections and embarked on the path of furthering his studies abroad. As for me, just like in my previous life, I stayed behind in the gallery. Since I made my choice, I have no regrets. Chapter 3. After being mocked by Ryan, my husband called me. Eva, I just heard from the driver that you slipped into the landscaping while helping someone pick up their phone. Are you hurt? His anxious voice was full of concern, bringing a smile to my face. No, I'm fine. Don't worry. That's good to hear. I've got a few things to wrap up here, but I'll be there as soon as I'm done. All right. See you soon. After hanging up, the smile lingered on my lips. It wasn't until I heard the class monitor calling my name that I returned to reality. He said the professor would arrive later and urged me with a laugh. Come have a drink with everyone. It's been years since we last met. And besides, this is wine that Ryan specially brought back. As soon as I entered the room, I heard Celine's sugary voice. She raised her glass toward me, smiling. Eva, come and have a taste. Everyone was gathered around Ryan and Celine, showering them with praise about how good the wine was. I took a sip and set the glass aside. The wine, honestly, was quite mediocre. Besides, since my husband and I were trying for a baby, it wasn't the right time to drink much. I planned to leave it at that. But Celine stuck to me like glue. She insisted that I properly evaluate the wine. Everyone there was a seasoned adult who could easily see through her intentions. This was no innocent invitation but a deliberate attempt to make things difficult for me. Some people, seeing that I didn't respond, joined in to mock me. It seems our school beauty can't tell if the wine is good or not. Huh? Like a pig trying to savor fine grain, just joking. Don't take it personally. Lighten the mood a bit. Our school really is inclusive. It doesn't matter if you're just a nobody. Today, everyone's invited. Don't be like that. Who doesn't know that Eva used to cling to Ryan every day back then? But look at them now, he's a big shot. And they broke up. Their words dripped with sarcasm, targeting me from every angle. Celine, clearly satisfied, gave a smug smile. Oh, don't say that. I just wanted Eva to try the wine. That's all, no other intentions. Her words seemed harmless, but her gaze was filled with provocation and smugness. I had no interest in playing her little games or engaging with these fickle people. Walking out of the room, I checked my phone and saw a message from my husband. He was still concerned about whether I was okay and mentioned that he'd be arriving with the professor soon. I replied to let him know I was fine and reminded him to stay safe on his way over. Just as I finished replying, Ryan showed up. Eva, I used to think you were just a useless burden when it came to going abroad. But after all these years, I see you've become nothing more than a country bumpkin who can't even drink wine properly. It turned out he had been hiding nearby, enjoying the show. Celine and I are getting engaged, he announced while carefully observing my reaction. Tell me, if you had followed me abroad to start a business, maybe by now we'd be married with kids again. But no, you had to be so stubborn. The result of your stubbornness is a life of mediocrity, being looked down upon, mocked. I interrupted his endless rambling with a casual response, congratulations. Ryan's face instantly froze, his expression turning awkward. Congratulations on what? On your engagement. Wishing you happiness. Ryan's face contorted with rage, his veins bulging as he glared at me. You'd better mean that. Lowering my head, I brushed past him and walked back inside. If it weren't for wanting to see the professor, I wouldn't have bothered coming to this circus. So much unnecessary drama. I found a private room to sit in for a moment of peace. When I finally returned to the small banquet hall, I noticed everyone giving me strange looks. I had no idea why. Chapter 4. It wasn't until Celine spoke up that I understood what was happening. It's fine. It's just a necklace. If it's lost, it's lost. Let's not ruin the harmony between classmates over it. That's when I realized it was Celine's necklace that had gone missing. However, the only two people who had been in close proximity to her earlier were Ryan and me. During the wine tasting, Celine had placed her necklace on a nearby chair. Coupled with the unpleasant exchange we had earlier, everyone naturally assumed that I had taken her necklace as a form of revenge. Well, you're being way too nice. That was the engagement gift from Ryan. If it were me, I'd make sure to investigate this thoroughly. Exactly. Some people are not only poor but also lack character, resorting to petty theft. I frowned, irritation flashing across my face, as I spoke sharply. If you have something to say, just say it. We're all adults here. What's the point of beating around the bush? Well, if you don't like it, maybe stop doing shady things. Exactly. Looks can only get you so far if your character is rotten. A girl with glasses chimed in, her tone dripping with sarcasm. I walked straight up to her, my expression dark and unamused. Staring her down, she seemed startled and immediately took 2 steps back. What? You want to hit me now that I've told the truth? Hit you? You're not worth it. You. Her clenched fists betrayed her rising anger. Sensing the awkward tension, someone quickly stepped in to mediate. All right. Today is supposed to be a happy reunion organized by the professor. Let's not ruin it with all this unpleasantness. Celine. 2. Feigned politeness. That's right. We've all been classmates for years. Let's not make this ugly. Just let it go. I turned to look at Celine's fake, hypocritical face and couldn't help but sneer. Let it go? No way. Investigate. This has to be thoroughly investigated today. I'd like to see who's throwing this baseless accusation at me. A lousy necklace. And you act like it's some priceless treasure. My words visibly irritated Celine. Her expression darkened, her face twisting in displeasure. It seems Eva usually wears necklaces worth millions. Such modesty. Truly impressive. The others jumped in with mockery. Modesty? Please. It's just an act. When she arrived covered in mud earlier, I bet she was in such a rush she tripped and face-planted. Don't be so harsh. After all, with her looks, she could always find a way to get money. At that, the group burst into laughter, fully understanding the insinuation. Ryan walked back into the room just then. What are you all laughing at? The laughter abruptly ceased. Ryan's eyes were slightly red, his tone carrying a trace of frustration. When Celine saw him, she immediately walked over, throwing herself into his arms. What's wrong? She asked tenderly. Ryan instinctively wrapped his arm around her waist, shaking his head slightly to indicate he was fine. The group seized the moment to shower them with compliments. You two are such a perfect match. Ryan turned back to the group, asking again what had happened. Celine glanced at me before replying, her tone pointed. The necklace you gave me is missing. I had set it down on the chair next to Eva earlier. Other than her, no one else was near it. Ryan tightened his hold on Celine and gave me a sharp look. Then she should pay for it, he said coldly. Or is it that, after working all these years, you still can't afford a necklace? With their words, the couple had already declared me guilty. How much was this necklace? Celine? 2 million. The room collectively gasped. Of course, it wasn't cheap. I noticed earlier that the diamonds on it looked extraordinary. Yeah, spending 2 million on a necklace, clearly. They've got some serious means. The group's fawning made Celine feel even more triumphant. She cleared her throat dramatically. Actually, the necklace has been discontinued, so its market value is even higher now. But since we're all classmates, I don't want to make this too ugly. Ryan watched the scene coldly from the side. Celine, feigning magnanimity, added, this amount might be nothing to us, but for you, it's probably something you couldn't earn in a lifetime. Here's what we'll do, apologize to me sincerely, and I'll let this go. Chapter 5. I let out a cold laugh. Just as I was about to retort, someone behind me gave me a push. I lost my balance and fell, knocking Celine to the ground along with me, spilling a nearby glass of wine in the process. Celine's dress was soaked with wine. Ryan immediately rushed over to help her up. Eva, what do you think you're doing? Someone in the crowd muttered that I was jealous of Celine, and the conversation quickly spiraled. Back in the day, Eva and Ryan were a couple. Now that Ryan and Celine are together and living so well, of course, she's jealous. She's probably regretting it now that her ex is so successful. Why didn't she think of this sooner? Exactly. I never thought Eva would be this kind of person. Ridiculous. I pressed my lips together in frustration. Someone pushed me just now. I didn't mean to bump into her. Eva. Celine interrupted me. I understand. It must be hard for you to see me and Ryan together. But it's been so long already. Back then, it was your decision. Oh, well, it's all in the past. She spoke as if she were the victim of some great injustice. Ryan frowned and added, Eva, whatever was between us ended a long time ago. There's no chance of it ever happening again. I suppressed my growing anger and replied coldly, that's right, it ended long ago, and there's no chance it will ever happen again. See, now she's playing hard to get. Someone whispered mockingly. No matter what I said, they twisted my words into lies. I didn't want to waste any more time arguing with these fools. Just as I turned to leave, Ryan grabbed my arm. Eva, you still haven't apologized to Celine. I held back my frustration and tried to keep my composure. I already said someone pushed me. It wasn't intentional, so I won't apologize. As for the necklace, I'll file a police report. Celine, with an air of magnanimity, chimed in. Forget it. Forget it. It's just a necklace. If she doesn't want to pay, we'll just consider it a gift. The crowd of sycophants started criticizing me again. Look at Celine. Then look at Eva. There's just no comparison. With that level of grace. No wonder Celine succeeded in business. Meanwhile, some people have been muddling through for years and only have their looks to show for it. Just then, Luis arrived with the professor. What's everyone gathered here for? Luis is here. The others quickly swarmed around Luis, eager to flatter him. Luis came from a well-known family business empire. He had already made a name for himself in the industry, becoming one of the top CEOs in the city. Many people saw this as an opportunity to establish connections with him. Although Ryan had his own company, it was nothing compared to Luis's stature. Ryan stood off to the side, his expression dark and stormy. Moments ago, he had been the center of attention, but now someone else had stolen the spotlight. His frustration was palpable. Luis, meanwhile, was surrounded by layers of admirers. I bent down slightly and squeezed through the crowd to reach him. Luis grabbed my hand and asked, "What happened here just now?" Before I could answer, the others eagerly began explaining the situation. After listening, Luis raised an eyebrow and glanced at me. Then, with a hint of teasing, he asked, "Jealous of those two being together?" I shook my head vigorously. "Absolutely not. They're lying." Someone pushed me, and that's why I bumped into Celine. Seeing the serious look on my face, Luis couldn't help but chuckle. "Of course. I believe you. By the way, how much for the broken wine and Celine's ruined dress? Just go ahead and pay for it yourself." Then he stepped closer to me. "After all, the money's all with you now, isn't it?" Seeing how close Luis and I were, the crowd began to sense something unusual. Ryan's expression turned even colder than before, and Celine's smile became noticeably strained. "Forget it. Let's just forget it. Talking about money only hurts feelings," Celine said, forcing a smile. Chapter 6. I let out a cold snort. Money can't harm the relationships we truly care about. What's more important than money is the truth. Luis nodded in agreement. Then he asked, "Did you drink wine?" I smiled sheepishly. "Just a little bit. Don't drink it again." Luis gently shook his head. "I'm not blaming you. It's just that drinking low-quality wine isn't good for you." Low-quality wine? Everyone caught on to that comment immediately. Impossible. This wine was brought back by Celine from a vineyard abroad. "That's right, Luis. You must be mistaken." Luis was a wine connoisseur with thousands of bottles in his private collection. He had a keen nose and palate, capable of distinguishing real from fake with just a sniff. "It's nothing rare or hard to tell apart," he said plainly. Celine's forced smile faltered, her tone growing sharper. "Luis and Eva seem so close," she remarked, a hint of venom in her voice. Luis ignored her and pulled out his phone to make a call. Everyone was confused by his actions. "Give it a few minutes, and the truth will be revealed. By the way," he added, "this hotel belongs to Eva. The manager will be bringing the surveillance footage shortly." Watching Luis's calm concern for me, I suddenly felt like everything I'd gone through today wasn't worth getting upset over. The others started fidgeting in their seats, clearly regretting their earlier attempts to curry favor with Celine. A flicker of panic crossed Celine's face, but she quickly masked it with a forced laugh. "Luis, you wouldn't go so far as to fake evidence just to defend Eva, would you?" Luis replied evenly. "Fake evidence? Hardly. But you passing off inferior wine as something special, who do you think you're fooling?" Celine was rendered speechless, her expression growing darker. Ryan's face remained cold and silent throughout. The truth was soon revealed. It turned out that the whole incident had been orchestrated by Celine. She had taken off her own necklace and slipped it into my pocket. Then, she arranged for someone to stand behind me and push me at just the right moment. "What about the wine? Are we just going to waste it?" someone asked. "All this trouble over Eva, what a waste." The video showed Celine's smug grin, almost splitting her face in two. "It's just wine that costs a few dozen bucks a bottle. Do you really think I'd serve good wine to that bunch of fools? What if they figure out it's low quality? Ha! What good wine have they ever tasted? Even if I farted in public, those pig-brained fools would still praise it as fragrant." Her accomplice nodded repeatedly, praising her cleverness. When the video ended, Celine's face was ashen. She tried to defend herself, but no one was buying it anymore. Well, it seems those who've lived abroad have a knack for scheming. Honestly, I thought the wine tasted like rotten grapes earlier, but I assumed Ryan wouldn't serve cheap stuff given how wealthy he is. Guess appearances can be deceiving. Maybe that's how they save money. With each remark, Celine and Ryan's faces grew darker. The atmosphere became unbearably awkward. It wasn't until the professor stepped in to smooth things over that the matter was finally put to rest. The group shifted back to their polite, refined selves, raising glasses and mingling as though nothing had happened. Luis, why don't you share some insights on your success? The professor, seated at the head of the table, beamed with pride as he spoke about his star pupil. My mood, which had been lackluster, brightened instantly. My husband was about to give a speech. As he spoke, Luis eventually brought up me. Behind every successful man is a supportive woman. Everything I have today, I owe to my wife, Eva. His words made our relationship clear to everyone. The entire room gasped audibly. Luis is married? And to Eva. Eva really kept it under wraps, didn't mention a word earlier. Across from me, Ryan's expression turned bizarre. His gaze toward me was filled with resentment, as if I had somehow betrayed him. Ignoring the fact that the professor was still speaking, he abruptly stood up and walked out. Celine quickly followed after him. Chapter 7. As the event came to an end, I found myself surrounded by a group of people. We always knew you were modest, but we didn't realize you were this low-key. You and Luis are such a perfect match. Exactly. You two look amazing together. Yeah, why didn't you invite us to the wedding? We've been classmates for so many years. We would have loved to celebrate with you. Luis was off to the side, handling a work call. I didn't want to deal with these people, but I had to respond politely. Our wedding was a private affair. Excuse me, I have other matters to attend to. The dismissal in my tone was obvious. Reluctantly, they dispersed. Luis finished his call just in time. He pulled me into his arms, his voice carrying a hint of playful complaint. Mom said we should pick up the gift she ordered for Dad's birthday on our way home. Of course. No problem. But I've got some work to finish later. So, I lightly hit his chest with my fist. All right. I'll pick it up. Our big boss should just focus on work. Luis broke into a happy laugh but glanced behind me, his expression changing slightly. It seems like another man's been watching you this whole time. He pouted slightly as he whispered, his lips unconsciously forming a sulky pout. I found it adorable and leaned in to kiss him. Luis wrapped his arms around me once again. I love you, he whispered softly into my ear. Then, I watched him leave with a smile. As I prepared to leave as well, Ryan called out to me. His nose and the corners of his eyes were red. Are you really married to Luis? I nodded, unwilling to say much more to him. He glared at me with a mix of anger and hurt, stepping closer with every word. I took a few steps back, irritated by his persistence and wanting nothing to do with him. He roared, Eva, how could you marry another man behind my back? How could you do this to me? His words were absurd, as though I had cheated on him. Don't say things like that. We broke up long ago, and you're about to have your own family now. No, he shouted, his voice trembling. Celine and I were never really together. That was a lie, Ryan blurted out. I just wanted to make you jealous. Everything was fake. These past 5 years, you've completely ignored me. There was a hint of grievance in his tone. I took another step back, putting more distance between us. After we were reborn, you left for abroad without saying a word. He fell silent, unable to refute. I continued, no matter what, it's over between us. Whether it was in the previous life or now, all the grudges and emotions are settled. From now on, we have nothing to do with each other. You've achieved success, and I have my own family. Let's not see each other again. Hearing me say we shouldn't meet anymore, he panicked. Eva, I left back then just to prove to you that my choice was the right one. I sighed, looking at him with a calm expression. All you ever wanted was to prove you were better off than me. If you thought I was doing well now, You wouldn't have sought me out. You just want to see me beneath you. Ryan shook his head, denying my accusation. Eva, I've thought about you every single day over these years. Thought about me? Thought about me regretting? Begging in front of you like a dog? Once again, he was silent. I let out a small laugh. Ryan, ever since we parted ways, I've never regretted it. Not even for a second. No matter what happened in our past life. It's all behind me now. Chapter 8. What do you mean it's all behind us? In our previous life, we even had a child together. And you can just say it's over so easily? Ryan grabbed my arm, refusing to let go. Eva, don't you have a conscience? We've only been apart for 5 years, just 5 years. That's not a whole lifetime. To be honest, when we first got our second chance at life, I often felt a heavy weight in my heart. We had been together since college. We were married for nearly 20 years. I had truly loved him and cherished the little family we built. That's why I had been willing to work tirelessly for our home, even considering marrying him again after we were reborn. But later, I came to understand that we were never meant to be. You can't force something that doesn't fit. It felt like we fought countless times over work, but those arguments were really about our incompatible values. We weren't the right match for each other. Staying together only caused mutual pain. The entanglements of our previous life had untangled themselves in this one. Tears welled up in Ryan's eyes again. Eva, I still don't understand why you refused to go abroad with me. You were all alone. You only had Olivia and me, with both of us abroad. What was the point of staying here? I gently shook my head. That's not true. In the beginning, I stayed in the city because you were here. Ryan was a local. And back then, I chose to stay for him. Later, it was because I valued the family we had built together. His parents treated me like their own daughter. They were getting older, and I couldn't bear to leave them behind. I also didn't want Olivia, so young, to live a life of constant upheaval, always moving from one place to another. Ryan's eyes glazed over as if he were replaying those moments in his mind. Ryan, did you leave because you genuinely wanted a better life for Olivia? Probably not, right? You left because of your pride. You couldn't stand seeing classmates who used to have less than you suddenly doing better. It hurts your ego. So, let's not see each other again. Take care of yourself. I turned to leave. Suddenly, Ryan ran in front of me, blocking my way. Eva, you don't mean that, right? I know you must have been furious when I left without a word, but I'm back now, aren't I? Everything I earned for you. Stop saying things you don't mean. Saying things I don't mean? Where did he get that idea? I had made myself perfectly clear. Suddenly, he grabbed the bracelet from my wrist. This is the charm I gave you when we first started dating. It's been over 10 years, and the string is so worn, yet you still wear it. I reached out to snatch the charm back, finding his assumption utterly laughable. In our previous life, he had indeed given me a safety charm. I had also given him one in return, but within days, he had decided it didn't look good and taken it off. I, however, had worn mine for years. But time changes everything. This charm wasn't the one he had given me. This was a new one, gifted to me by Luis after he had it blessed at a temple. You're overthinking things, I said calmly. This was a gift from my husband. The one you gave me? I threw it away long ago. I don't believe you. His eyes widened in defiance. You're just saying that to spite me. Eva, divorce him. I don't care if you're a divorcee. You didn't want to go abroad with me, so I stayed here for you. Now that I have money, I can support all your decisions. Let's have another child and bring Olivia back to us. He was still hopelessly deluded. I sighed deeply and replied with a note of finality. I will never divorce Luis. You won't divorce him? I ignored him and strode away. Fine, but don't regret this. Ryan's voice echoed behind me, filled with bitterness and desperation. Chapter 9. Later, I heard from mutual friends that Ryan had returned abroad. Finally, he was gone. I felt relieved, no longer suffocated by his relentless pestering. But just as Ryan stopped bothering me, others started. Ever since the class reunion, numerous former classmates reached out, trying to add me on social media and even suggesting collaborations. I had my assistant reject them all. A bunch of opportunists wasn't worth my time. On my birthday, Luis woke me up bright and early. "Eva, get ready. Your husband is taking you out." I looked at him playfully, pouting. "So early? Can't I sleep a little longer?" Luis chuckled softly. "How could we waste such a beautiful day sleeping?" He took me to a Sky Garden restaurant. It turned out he had planned a birthday party for me, full of surprises, big and small, throughout the day. Seeing Luis's smiling face, I felt incredibly fortunate to have such a wonderful husband. He was there to comfort me when I needed it. He was there to care for me when I needed it. A long time ago, I asked Luis why he chose me to be his girlfriend. Why did he treat me so well? He answered with conviction, "Because you deserve it." Luis told me he had known me for a long time. So long that the first time he saw me was when I was giving vaccinations to stray cats by the roadside. Do you know why? Out of so many professors, I chose to work with the same one as you? Because I wanted to be your senior, or rather, because you were there. But later, when you were with Ryan, I quietly wished the best for you too. Luis had said, "Luckily, the heavens were kind to me. I finally got to be with you." Indeed, being with Luis in this lifetime felt like a blessing from the heavens. That day, we had a wonderful evening together. I thought life would continue to unfold in a slow, steady happiness. But the next day, Ryan appeared at the entrance of my gallery. He looked pale, his face haggard and drawn. When he saw me, he immediately stood up. "Ryan, why are you back? Didn't you say you were leaving? What are you doing here?" Hearing this, Ryan's face lit up with joy. He must have misunderstood, thinking I cared about him. His happiness was all too obvious. I felt utterly exasperated. "Eva, yesterday was your birthday. I waited here for you the whole day. This is your birthday gift from me." He pulled out a beautifully wrapped box from his bag. Inside was a necklace identical to the one Celine had. I glanced at it briefly. "Sorry, but my husband would misunderstand. I don't want to upset him." "Eva." He looked visibly displeased, his eyes reddening as he glared at me. Then his tone softened. "I've sold all my assets abroad. From now on, I'm staying here. I won't go anywhere else. I'll be here for you. Eva, please don't be so cold. I'm miserable. I know I've done many wrong things in the past. I'm apologizing, okay? Please forgive me." He began repeating "I'm sorry" over and over again, admitting fault and begging for my forgiveness. His attitude was humbler than I had ever seen, but all I felt was a headache. It was all in the past. As for whether what he said was true or not, I no longer cared. "Ryan, I already made myself clear last time. It's over between us, whether you can accept it or not. There's no possibility for us anymore." "Eva?" Luis approached with a small box in his hand. "A little gift for today. I hope you have a wonderful day." Ever since we got together, he had made it a habit to prepare a small gift for me every day. I took the gift and gently kissed his cheek. Ryan looked at us in disbelief. Then, he hastily wiped away the tears that were nearly spilling from his eyes. "Hello!" Caught off guard, Ryan stammered a greeting before fleeing the scene in a panic. "Am I that scary?" Luis muttered under his breath, a hint of playful confusion in his tone. I chuckled. "Not at all." "Then what were you two talking about just now?" I distinctly heard him talking about being together. His jealous pout and tone were utterly adorable. I turned away with a playful air of pride. "And did you also hear your wife firmly and righteously tell him it's impossible?" Chapter 10. After that day, Ryan stopped showing up in front of me for a long time, but he would occasionally send me messages, sometimes reminiscing about the past, other times apologizing. Whenever I saw them, I blocked him. Then he'd get a new number and send more, again and again, tirelessly. Eventually, Ryan broke down. He became trapped in the memories of our past life. His thoughts jumbled, and his mental state deteriorated until he was admitted to a hospital. The day I went to see him, he was kneeling on the ground, struggling to pick a small flower nearby. It was such a simple task, something even a child could do with ease. Yet it seemed insurmountable for him. I couldn't help but think of Ryan from years ago, so composed, confident, and proud. But now, He was wearing a shabby hospital gown, his hair unkempt, his body covered in dust and oil stains. He looked so much older, as if he were in his 50s or 60s. I looked into his vacant eyes and asked, "Are you okay here?" Ryan didn't answer my question. Instead, he smiled and asked, "Eva, are you here to see our daughter?" Then he stood up and spun around in place, as if searching for something. I stared at his stained hospital gown, remaining silent. When I didn't respond, Ryan spoke again. "Where's Olivia?" "Oh, I know. She's gone to get you a gift. Look, a bouquet." Olivia prepared this. He carefully brushed the dirt off the flower he'd been holding and handed it to me with trembling hands. I was about to say something when a nurse interrupted. "Ma'am, visiting hours are over." I stood up, swallowing my words, and left the room. As the nurse walked me out, she spoke about Ryan's condition. "His mental state is worsening. He keeps talking about a child, asking where his child is, and apologizing repeatedly." I turned back, looking through the window to see Ryan watching me. "Remember to come see the child," he called out. I turned away without looking back. As I stepped out of the psychiatric hospital, Luis was there, carefully supporting me. I touched my pregnant belly. A child? Luis and I already had one on the way.